And here we go. So good morning, everyone, or afternoon, as the case may be. My name is Leslie Lemaster, and I would like to welcome you to Losing Time, Dementia and Alzheimer's Disease Behind Bars, an NIC live webinar event today, July the 28th, 2016. I am Leslie Lemaster. I am going to be serving as your host and producer for today's webinar. I am a program specialist with the Academy Division of NIC located in Aurora, Colorado. And one of the many hats that I wear for NIC is as the WebEx Administrator, which is the hat I am wearing today. And we are delivering this webinar to you in WebEx Event Center. Before we get started with the WebEx webinar today, I'd like to just orient you to the primary tool that we're going to be using so we can communicate with you and get your questions and comments during today's webinar, and that is the chat function here in WebEx Event Center. Many of you have already tried this out, and that is the chat function. I want to make sure that you have it turned on. You see, hopefully, my WebEx Leslie Lemaster yellow pointer up near the right-hand top corner of your screen. There should be a little icon that looks like a text icon. If you would turn that on, it should be labeled chat. That's the way to make sure that the chat function is engaged on your computer or your smart device. And then if you will go down to the right-hand corner bottom of your screen, that's where the chat box should pop up for you, where you can send us a chat and where you can ask a question when we get to the question and answer portion of the webinar, which is coming up just a little bit later in the webinar. Right now, if you would just practice out on that if you have not, and just let us know what the weather is like, where you're joining us from in the United States or wherever you might be joining us with today. Here in Aurora, it's 84 degrees and sunny. So just make sure you send that chat out to all participants on that drop-down menu. And we'll test that out and make sure it works for you, since that's going to be your way to ask questions and make comments during today's webinar. Ooh, hot in Pueblo. Ooh, gloomy and rainy. Ooh, look at all that different weather across the country. Oh my goodness, 110 degrees. Oh, I think I kind of like that 74, but I don't know about that humidity, Michelle. Oh my goodness, McCrae. Look at that, Latanya, oh my gosh. Hot and rainy. Oh, humid and beautiful. I like all those weather forecasts. So don't you just love the diversity of the weather we have in the country? I love it. So we're going to be using the chat function. Just send a message to me privately. You can also notice when you look at that little drop-down menu on who you can send messages to, you can send a message to me as the host, Leslie Lemaster, the host, if you're having a technical issue here in the WebEx environment, if I can help you out. So I'm going to turn this over now to my colleague, Bernie Isler, who is our moderator, to get us started on our topic. Bernie.
Morning, everyone. Am I coming through, Leslie?
You are. You sound beautiful, loud and clear.
Okay. Good morning or afternoon, everyone. I'm Bernie Isler, and as Leslie's colleague, I also work in the Academy Division in Aurora, Colorado, and very happy to have you all here today. My role in this as a moderator is in a couple minutes I will introduce our panel. I will also be monitoring the chat for any questions or comments, and so please, along the way, when you have a question, please put it into the chat, and later on when we have the Q&A part of this webinar, I'll throw the questions out there for our presenters. So welcome to the webinar on dementia and Alzheimer's disease of incarcerated persons. We're very excited to have this panel talk about their experience with this population, but also about the Gold Coat Project, a very innovative response to the needs of this at-risk population. So before, and I use the word innovation because before we get started and introduce the presenters, next slide, I want to just talk briefly about our virtual conference coming up. This is the only commercial message you will get during this webinar. Our 2016 virtual conference, the title is Leading with Innovation. And so registration opens August 1st for that. The live conference will run on November 9th. And so you're getting a little taste today of what some of the different presentations we'll have for the virtual conference. And so just wanted you to know about that. The registration will be open, and if you can always go to our website and find that link and do that registration. And so again, Leading with Innovation as our group of presenters today. So let me introduce our presenters. Next slide. First is Eileen Hongo, and she is a geriatric social worker and life skills instructor. We also have with us Barry Hughes, who is a health technician for the Department of Mental Health Veterans Administration. And next slide. And Ron Levine, who is a commercial photographer and has worked for several years on the Prisoners of Age project. And I encourage you to go look on the website, Prisoners of Age project. There's some very moving photographs there, and also into a book. But a lot of the photographs you're going to see on this webinar today are Ron's photographs. So I want to welcome all three of our panelists. And now I'm going to turn this presentation over to Eileen.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Eileen Hongo, and I'm a geriatric social worker, as Bernie had indicated. And I'm also a research fellow with the Roybal Institute on Aging at the University of Southern California. I'm currently a life skills teacher at the Los Angeles County Jails, and life skills meaning anger management, parenting, all kinds of life skills. And I also teach in the mental health facility part of the jail, and I also have a class with the developmentally disabled. I've been visiting various California prisons, facilitating healthy aging workshops for elderly inmates since about 2006. Then in 2012, I came across the Gold Coats during a visit to the California Men's Colony State Prison in San Luis Obispo. And the work these men were doing was incredible, caring for those with dementia and cognitive impairments on a 24/7 basis. Luckily, a short time later, I came across a couple of former Gold Coats at a reentry home, and thus we started the conversation of keeping up the rigorous standards of these Gold Coats, that pushing a wheelchair, though pushing a wheelchair is important, was only a part of the daily activities these men helped clients maneuver through. So we decided to gather a group of former Gold Coats and document these standards in the form of a guidebook, which we recently published. And now we are looking to start a pilot reentry program to care for those with dementia being released and have no place to go. It's an ongoing project, and I'm so honored to be a part of it. In the interim, I joined the Speakers Bureau at the Greater Alzheimer's Los Angeles facility, and they provided valuable training for me about dementia and Alzheimer's disease. I also really want to thank the National Institute of Corrections for allowing us to share this very important issue today. I will also like to introduce Barry Hughes, who is a former Gold Coat, and he will be interjecting parts of his experiences. So Barry, in a few words, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself before I start this slide.
Oh, good morning, everyone. My name is Barry Hughes. I'm currently working for the Department of Mental Health for Veterans Administration. I'm also a former Gold Coat, as Eileen has said, with a certification in hospice care. I've been palliative care provider with over 14 years of experience in this industry. And this is where I've gained a lot of these unique concepts and which helped me to really learn how to listen to hear instead of to respond.
Great. Thank you, Barry. And as you hear him, you'll see what incredible skills these Gold Coats have learned in the course of work. So getting back to our slides, the question is, what is dementia? And I want to welcome you to our presentation, and I'll start with the basics of dementia before we go into how this relates to life behind bars. As I mentioned, I'm a volunteer speaker for the Alzheimer's of Greater Los Angeles, and they've really helped me with the information that's coming to you in the next couple of slides. So what is dementia? Some people think of it as losing your memory, wandering, confusion, and I'm sure all of us have gone through times where we've misplaced our keys, right? Can't remember where we parked our cars. And that's sort of normal. When you start to worry is if you find an iron in the refrigerator, right? Things that are not normal. So actually, dementia is a loss of memory and other mental abilities severe enough to interfere with daily life. And we'll get into that a bit later. Next slide, please. So there are different types of dementia. Dementia is sort of an umbrella term. And similar to cancer, right, there are different forms of cancer, stomach, breast, bone, etc. However, Alzheimer's disease is the largest, accommodating over 70% of dementias in Americans 71 years and older. Vascular dementia can be caused by a series of mini strokes, and there is also a reversible dementia, which can be encountered possibly during a head injury. But note that Alzheimer's disease is progressive and fatal. Next slide, please. And here are some stats to confirm just how many are afflicted with Alzheimer's disease. These stats are pretty staggering. Next slide, please. The 10 warning signs. The Alzheimer's Association lists 10 warning signs, and I'm not going to go into each of these due to time constraints, but they will be available on the full presentation. But if you can imagine an inmate wandering off to where he or she isn't supposed to be, a custody officer tells him or her to go back to the yard, and the inmate gets angry or agitated. Another scenario might be an inmate walks over to another one at chow and takes their food. What could happen? Next slide, please. Many of these behaviors can be mistaken for insubordination. So education and awareness on the part of custody and staff is vital, especially in facilities with a larger elder population. Next slide, please. So although Alzheimer's disease is not preventable, there are 3 major risk factors that can contribute to its onset. So as you look at these 3 major risk factors, how does this work behind bars?
You know, Eileen, I would just like to say, as I'm viewing this right here, this is the heart and soul of the ADL program, which you'll be talking about later, activities in daily living that we oftentimes refer to as assistance in daily living, because as Gold Coats, that's exactly what we do. We assist people or patients, and I would just like to say that we have to stimulate them and encourage them oftentimes through exercise or while they're eating, motivate them oftentimes because we are together with others. We have to redirect and motivate during these activities. Thank you.
Good point. Good point. Next slide, please. So how will this work in your facility? Next slide, please. So as baby boomers continue to age, so does the same group behind bars, bringing with it increasing costs of health care and liability. Next slide, please. So we really need to look at why it is costing so much for older adults. And as Barry had mentioned, the functional assessment of older adults. Here we see basic functional needs of older adults, both inside and outside. If you think about your parents, your grandparents, loved ones, other loved ones, you will see that these are just daily things that we have to deal with older adults. Many outside senior care facilities refer to this as activities of daily living, or ADLs, and often screen the clients based on the functionality of ADLs. For example, can a person bathe himself? Can a client change her own clothes? So measuring these ADLs help tremendously in fulfilling the needs and reducing the risk of injury or accident with the individual.
And if I may, and to my point, this is Barry, once again, to my point about how as Go Coach, there was duality in the term activities or assistance. We always viewed it as assistance because we had to assist people in their necessities, whatever they may be. So in bathing, for example, I had to prepare one's towels, lay out things, because they might grab the wrong instrument or tool or bathing supply for themselves. And, you know, someone might grab a medicine bottle, you know, thinking that it's shampoo. And so things would have to be prepared, thought out, you know, ahead of time. And this is with their clothing. This is while dealing with incontinence. And so I just would like our viewing audience to reflect and always think about them.
And especially in a correctional setting where, you know, everybody has to wear the same clothes, and someone may not feel like wearing their clothes today. And how do you deal with someone that gets agitated? And we'll talk more about that later. Next slide, please. So now we go into exactly what Barry was stating. Is maybe somebody doesn't want to brush their teeth. Maybe somebody doesn't want to change their clothes. So the inability to perform these ADLs is referred to as functional impairment. And with Alzheimer's disease, functional impairment will increase as the disease progresses. Next slide, please.
And I would like to interject, if I may, right there, Eileen, because I'm always affected by this photograph right here, this puzzle, right, and the brain. And I just am reminded of how, and I'd like to remind our viewing audience, because you've been more knowledgeable than I, that plaque is growing and causing destruction to cell injuries. And depending on what part of the brain is affected, really deals with one's temperament. It deals with if they're sad or angry or lethargic, and this affects their mood. And so I would like you to also reflect upon that, because people have had experience with those with Alzheimer's. And remember now, when we think of this word dementia, it's like an umbrella. Under that, there's drug-induced memory loss, there's Alzheimer's, there's trauma, and, you know, and there's just so many people that are just affected by this. And so I just wanted to have those reflect upon that.
Good point. And a lot of times, you know, custody and staff really don't have time, or for security purposes can't really go into, gee, why is this person angry, right? Good point. Thank you, Barry. Next slide, please. So here's the bottom line, and this is why we're here to talk about this. Next slide, please. So when I went and saw and met the Gold Coats, they were talking about alternative custody. And I thought, what is alternative custody? Next slide, please. So alternative custody, or here we call it the Alternative Custody Team, or ACT, was at the California Men's Colony. And the Gold Coat program is part of this Alternative Custody Team. I know some of these letters are kind of small, so I'll just go with them quickly. The team consists of a psychologist, a staff coordinator, custody officer, and primary clinician. This can, of course, vary according to the needs of the facility. And Barry, if you want to interject, this is basically the 5-member team at CMC, right, in San Luis Obispo.
No, that was pretty kind of concise and straight to the point. You know, I would just say that it's important to have a team, as you know, anytime not doing any type of work for the Department of Mental Health, and that's what this was, because that way it's truly, when you think about a village to raise a child, this is truly, it takes all of us to nurture these patients, to guide them along, to support them, to advocate for them, and to do it with compassion, and so that their dignity is intact at all times.
Absolutely. Next slide, please. So I took a portion of this, right, and here are some of the duties, and it's broken down by the psychologist, the clinician, technician, and custody officer. And again, this is at CMC, you know, the California Men's Colony, but it will differ at each facility depending on staffing and the needs of that particular facility. Next slide, please. So the gold coats are really, people are like, what's a gold coat? So the gold smock is indicative of a caregiver at the facility. This is important as it designates to the staff and other inmates that the gold coat worker can assist clients in daily activities. Barry, I think you had an example of how gold coat can be seen in the yard.
Well, actually, I've just always referred to it as like a government license plate. It was always a symbol of access and inclusiveness. It always could let someone know from great distances if they saw an altercation, or if they saw a person that was lying down that was injured, but they couldn't ascertain why or what was going on. When they saw that symbol right there, when they saw that smock, they were assured that someone was in need of support, or that someone was there to take care of whatever the situation was, and they were confident that they would get a good report on it.
Great. Next slide, please. So who can be a gold coat, right? Not everyone can be a gold coat. The gold coat criteria is quite stringent, but this is extremely important as they are responsible and accountable for a vulnerable population. They assist them going to canteen, going to medical, even, and I think Barry can attest to this, is helping them get their boxes from canteen, correct?
Yes, but more importantly, to protect them from predators. I mean, remember, a prison is just a small microcosm of the outside. The same things that go in there go on the outside. But more importantly here, I'm just reminded how, as Gold Coast, because we would be part of, the staff always let us be a part of the hiring process whenever we were receiving someone new to the program and or attempting to fill a slot. And so it was very important for us to protect the integrity of the program.
Absolutely. And current Gold Coats should be a part of the interview process because you want to keep that standard of care and service that's being provided. Next slide, please. And I'm going to have Barry explain the slide.
Well, you know, I would just like to say, just as a little backdrop to this photo, not only would we be let out of our cell in the middle of the night if there's some type of problem or altercation or some type of circumstance that arrived, but we would be let out to assist with something oftentimes that had been gone wrong. But we would also be paired up due to familiarity between caregiver and client. In this photo, this client would oftentimes see and talk to his own twin brother when trying to groom himself in the mirror. Such is sometimes the need of hand-over-hand method of shaving. Right here, this caregiver here, he is attempting to shave this gentleman, who I know them both, and I'm often moved by this, but he's attempting to shave this gentleman because sometimes depending on how his mood is that morning, how he's affected, he may look in the mirror, because he can shave himself fine, but he may look in the mirror and feel to have a conversation. And if he's angry, he uses the razor in an angry way. So sometimes we intervene, we make him, we prompt him and motivate him to shave himself, to feel the strokes by our guide. And that's just something I just wanted to share. That everyone reflect on.
And that's incredible. You know, sometimes we have difficulty caring for our own family members or loved ones, and these gentlemen are caring for the complete strangers, from diapering to shaving. It's incredible. Next slide, please. So scheduling is important to keep inmates on time for programs, medical visits, and general activities during the day. The rotation also prevents burnout from caregiving duties. Remember, it is difficult to care for your own family members, and these guys are doing it on a 24/7 basis. Next slide, please. And here is a sample schedule. Again, this can change, or you can revise it to your facility, but it gives the group some sort of structure. So everyone, and they also had duties. I believe it changed every month, Barry? The schedules would change monthly?
No, the schedule, we wouldn't ever change the schedule because routine was very important. In other words, what we did on Mondays, we did every Monday. What we did on Tuesdays, we did all the time. So an example.
It was the crew.
Exactly.
The crew that changed, right.
Right. So what happens is, like, we would rotate from group facilitator to person who did ducking or who was responsible for showering. And basically that was a person that was just the facilitator of that shower time. But just to give a small example, like on a Tuesday, we would assist staff with inspections, for example, before and after morning meals. Then we would accompany ADL individuals to the gym, in which we would do things like music exploration, or we would round the individuals up for community living or therapeutic community or community assessment, in which we dealt with the needs and concerns of that community.
Great. Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. So the next few slides that you see are really the heart of this program, right? The benefits. Who does this benefit? Who gains from this program? So as you can see, this model encompasses so many, sometimes unforeseen or unseen benefits. But here, the Gold Coats provide, right, comfort and care, extra ears and eyes for the staff. And I think this is very important because staff cannot be everywhere all the time. And a lot of times these clients really engage in a certain trust with their caregivers. And that can't be helped. That's just human nature, right? You learn to trust people that care for you. It's a cost savings to an outside caregiver. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say you said extra eyes and ears for staff. You have to understand, all the security personnel there, their primary goal is security. They may not have experience or knowledge in what a social worker does, or they may not always know how to help care for their own selves, to bring themselves back. Believe it or not, it's a very stressful job. And so I just want to remind you that we have enrichment seminars which help us to stay healthy, to do the best we can, not only on behalf of the patient, but also on behalf of the staff as well, because a lot of them they're not prepared or have knowledge of the special techniques that are used to engage to keep problems down and to assuage people's inner feelings and lower their anxiety.
Absolutely. And Barry had touched on safety for the clients, and I think also this one on the bottom here, comfort for the family, is a given. I mean, it's unbelievable how the families are very thankful that their loved ones are being cared for. Next slide, please. And what do the gold coats gain, right? Caregiving can be a thankless job, yet these men have turned their lives around by the act of giving. I've asked some of the custody officers at the prison, you know, what is the recidivism rate for these guys? And absolutely, probably zero. They have not, they don't return. They learn empathy. They learn how to care for people. Next slide, please.
Well, I would like to interject right there, if I may, before we go to the next slide.
Sure.
I can truly tell you, as a former Gold Coast, I'm doing the exact same work, social service aid type work today, like I did when I was incarcerated. And so for me, this is very moving. I'm very grateful, and it is very empowering to know that, because you got to understand, I gained a lot of support from people that I did not even know. And so it increased a greater motivation factor for me. And then I thought about, wow, here was I'm caring for all these men who I just come to know, you know, in such a short time. And I began to reflect over my own loved ones, especially my mother. And I thought to myself, wow, I would never want her to just grow old alone. So this was very powerful, and it had deep meaning for me, and it really added to my resolve. Thank you.
Wow, very compelling, Barry. I don't know if I could continue with this. Okay, next slide, please. And in addition, they gain marketable skills, right? Problem solving, leadership, teamwork, stress management, all in the course of their daily work. Next slide, please. And ultimately, the patient, who may not even know where he is, where he or she is, may not even know why they are where they are, but they will get compassionate care, better functionality, family support, family meaning their prison family, and really the lower risk of accidents and injuries. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to turn this over to Ron, who has a photojournal, a very touching and compelling photojournal. Hi.
Hi, does everyone hear me? Well, I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Eileen. That was enlightening. I just want to show you some images. I've been photographing in prisons, geriatric prisons and prisons with geriatric units for 20 years now. The work project is titled Prisoners of Age, and there's a book out. And there's the exhibition has been shown. It just came down in Alcatraz after being up there for a year. As well, it's been shown in Australia, Dublin, Ottawa. You could see all the images and some of the exhibit photographs at prisonersofage.com. What we have here, I guess I'll just run through it. Each photograph is associated with a statement from one of the Gold Coats, I believe. So let's go to the next slide. And if anyone wants details about the photographs or where they were taken, you can just send me a question. I can answer them later. I just want to make sure that we have time to do an answering question period.
And I just wanted to interject that these testimonials are from actual Gold Coats, some of them who are also hospice caregivers, and I did not put their names just for confidentiality purposes, but these were their testimonials.
That's great. We can move on to the next slide. And I'll just tell you, this is from this fellow's from the near Reno. I forgot the name of
Northern Nevada.
Thank you. Northern Nevada. That's where Reno would be. All right, moving right along. Next slide. This Eileen, this woman, Donna Jelinek, she's at Chino facility in California, I believe. And Eileen, if you want to say a bit about her, you know so much.
Actually, Donna is probably one of the first women I've met when visiting prisons. She's a lifer without parole, and she is probably in her late 60s now. And she has a family, very supportive, but she will not be going home. She will be spending the rest of her life in prison. Very sad.
Hey, if I may, I'd like to interject something right here because I'm moved to think of something that's kind of personal with a family member of my own who just recently passed. He was my uncle. And I would just like to say, there would be things that would happen in our family, and we just thought that, oh, this is just the way he was. But we found out later, I'm talking over 20 years later, that because of Alzheimer's and how early it can start, that my uncle had been affected. So a lot of his decision-making things that he was doing, we might have thought that, hey, okay, he just really got angry today. Or he in other words, what I'm trying to bring knowledge about is that I don't know this woman or what her crime may have been, but we'll never know how much this disease may have impacted that. Because I had a gentleman who I used to care for who was a real estate broker, kind and loving man. And it was evident to me that he had no idea what he had done. And I just want to say.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Next slide. Sorry, thank you. This gentleman, he was in for life. He was 82 when I took this photograph, and this goes back on 12 years now. And he was one of the stars of the book. He was in prison for killing his. Oh, actually, I shouldn't even say that. And the next slide, please. This is taken in the first prison I went to photograph was the Alabama Institute for the Aged and Infirm in Hamilton, Alabama, and this gentleman was there. And the next slide. Now, I should mention something about this fellow. This fellow was either early onset Alzheimer's. We photographed him in '76. It was also in Alabama. But he and Barry can probably attest to this. This man was being picked on by the younger inmates for food, for razors, for all kinds of things that he had. And the only thing he really owned, one of the correctional officers told me, was this rope around his neck. Sorry, it's just a little, not a rope around his neck, but a little rope medallion on his neck. Again, just being picked on with Alzheimer's because he wasn't really clear of the day, of the week, or anything. The opportunity for others to take advantage of them is huge. Barry, can you attest to that, or?
Yes, oftentimes as a Gold Coat, I've had to defend opportunists, against people who thought that they could have an easy come up. For example, people receive money still. People are able to go to R&R, which is a receiving part of the penitentiary, in which they can pick up valuables that have been shipped to them, mailed to them. And so oftentimes we've had to be a barrier between those that are stronger against those that are weak.
Thank you, Barry. I've seen it so many times in some of these prisons. It's very unfortunate. Next slide. And again, in so many cases, in some of the elderly prisons we photographed in, these men and women, they've lost like this fellow lost his legs because of diabetes. He was in for murder, but again, he will probably never leave the prison. So who takes care of him in that situation? I mean, the man is relatively, well, relatively harmless. He's been in for more than 20 years, and I think that's who takes care of him. Once he leaves the prison, if he doesn't have family to take care of them, I believe they'd keep them in the prison. Next slide, please. And next slide. And next slide. Now, Eileen or Barry, do you want to talk about the book at all?
Oh, this is actually a picture of a cover of our book, and our book meaning it's the Gold Coat book. And when I talked about earlier, they had these extremely stringent standards. They were very proud of their work, how the client, we treat our clients with dignity, and which is, not always the case in prison, in a correctional setting. So this is kind of a guidebook. It also has the schedules, and you can look on the website. And you can email any questions to the Gold Coats. There are 6 authors, Barry being one of them. And we would love to hear from you. Next slide, please. And there it is, Q&A.
Yes, and this is Bernie. Are you hearing me?
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I have multiple questions here that have shown up in the chat. And first starting out, as far as understanding this population and having people work with them inside the prison, is there an effort to educate the rest of the staff so they understand, whether you have Gold Coats or not, but understand that this population, the kind of issues they will have, so staff can understand the difference between people just being insubordinate and people who just may not remember?
I think Barry, maybe you can probably also speak on this. From my understanding, is the Alzheimer's Association on the outside would bring in some training for staff at CMC.
When you say staff, do you mean like a security personnel?
Yes.
Because I'm not aware of that. All training I received was, first of all, the bulk of my training was in the hospice program. That's where I learned a lot of the techniques that assisted me so that I could know how to properly gain somebody with dementia's attention, interact with them, to redirect them. And so I don't think on the security end they tend that's a big strength because they have so many other things to do. But I was moved by someone because I got caught up in I'm looking at the questions, and I'm looking at Steve Jones, and he was asking me about a pay number in there. And I wanted to tell him that at the beginning of the program, the Gold Coats, they didn't get paid anything. Remember, this started out because of a recreational therapist saw that men weren't being stimulated enough, and she wanted to find a way to reverse that. And so the gentlemen that I'm thinking of right now, when they share with me, they really learned everything and was inspired to do more for nothing. But as far as pay, though, at one time, I myself was receiving $48 a month. And then because of state budget needs and concerns, it got reduced to, I believe, I want to say 26 or 24. So, Steve, no, I never did it for the money. And although you're not asking it in that way, and but there was a lot of other ways that we received benefit that was, that assisted, the lack of funds. For example, we would get a week to decompress. We would also always be allowed at the front of the line. we'd always be given the benefit of the doubt based upon our demonstration. Because one thing about that gold code is that people saw you and were looking at you and you never knew. And so someone was always reporting about you. And the things they reported, if they were good, it benefited you in many ways. And I can tell you that's why you're even listening to my voice right now.
And great points, Barry. It's so compelling when you hear his stories. And to get back to that question, in the book, Samuel Law is one of the authors, and he's an original Gold Coat. And he came to me when I interviewed him and we were talking. He brought all this information, these PowerPoints that were like yellow in color, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And he had told me at that time there was an Alzheimer's group, Alzheimer's Association representative that came in and did a workshop for the Gold Coats. So I am assuming that could be done in that similar format for custody, would be my guess.
Yes.
I had another question here. There was, and maybe you have some ideas about this, but if this program, you talk about it being long-term in the prison for obvious reasons, do you have any ideas about what could happen in a jail, for instance, or where you have people there maybe a total of 18 months? Because based on your criteria for the criteria for Gold Coats, it wouldn't be appropriate for jails. But do you have any ideas regarding this population in a jail?
That's a great question because I deal with this every day, and my concern is the short term. Although in California we do have some state, we have some jail inmates doing state time. So that can possibly be a program for those doing long-term, but I don't see it unless there's some type of really clear assessment of dementia. I don't think there's a staffing, and that's another problem or issue is staffing to really assess people with dementia, right? They're kind of categorized into, okay, this is mental health, because there's so many people going in and out, especially in Los Angeles, constantly changing. That's a big problem. I wish there was an answer.
Thank you. There was a question about PREA. How is PREA impacted upon such a program? Were there any issues you ran up against with PREA?
During the course, with facilitating these workshops with older adults, I have not seen or heard many issues with PREA, although that doesn't mean it doesn't exist just because it's a vulnerable population. But Barry, I don't know if that's, it may have been already out by the time PREA was, it's about the prison rape. And I don't know if that was an issue during your time.
I must tell you, I'm just moved. I'm looking at the people that are in the chat, and it's kind of shifted. So, but I'm looking at Autumn, and I believe it's Chris. And I'm just thinking about, I want to be frank with you guys. When it comes to this book, when it comes to the insight that I have gained in my experience, my sole purpose and dream for getting this information out and how it coincides with those two people, their question, is that we're able to move this from just not only inside to be able to impact and the people's lives there, but to also for those that are coming home, whether they have someone or not, or whether they're being paroled, that they have a place to go to out here. And that can be like almost like a halfway house type setting, but with medical staff, social workers, health care coordinators, to where the care coordination can be a support for that person being paroled and be a liaison for them, and their families. And so they maintain the same type of support, because I've met lots of people that you can tell them over and over again, hey, this is why your father or your mother is acting like that. And because they've been acting one way with them, interacting one way with them for years, you have to reprogram their thinking, because they don't know that some of the things they say are things that can be demeaning or hurtful. They keep asking, why are you doing something, when they've been told why they're doing something. So we can kind of help support that circumstance from one place to another. And so I just want to say that I'm looking forward to trying to find a way to make that happen, and this is just the beginning.
Thank you. I see on the chat it says about the Gold Coast training that they're asking if it's defined in the book. Could you address a little bit about the training, what that looks like?
In the book?
Oh.
Yes, the book. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when I think of training, I was very fortunate. There was a lady who was, I mean, she was just really good with protocol. And she used to make sure that she took out at least 1 or 2 times a week, in which we always, first of all, we had to really know what Alzheimer's was, where it derived from, how it's impacted society, how it weans on the body, and the type of deterioration it causes. And so we were always dealing with information, scientific, medical, social, and not only that, also enrichment seminars, things that would help us, that we'd be involved in to help us decompress, so that we'd be in better position to help and be fresh each and every week. And so it's important that, you know, I can say, in this business, without knowledge, you're of no use to anyone.
And I think Barry brings a good point that it really is a dedication on the part of staff and administration. If such a program is going to happen, there is really a commitment to it, not only with the Gold Coast, but also with custody, that everybody gets trained and understand and have an awareness of, you know, these impairments as we get older.
Okay. Thank you. I had just kind of a general question as well. With is there an average number of years that you may have if the person's not leaving and they've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's? We're talking about years and years of care. Is there an average amount of years?
The average is anywhere from 10 to 15 years from onset. And this can vary, you know, with many people. I had an aunt who, you know, survived 10 years. The Alzheimer's Association really, you know, that anywhere from 10 to 15. Some people deteriorate quickly. Some people can go on, you know, much longer. So it really depends on the individual. But yes, you're correct. Years and years.
Thank you. I also see a question. What is the Gold Coast patient ratio? I thought the Gold Coast was 1-on-1, but I'll ask the question again. What's the ratio?
Oh, well, it varies, because I can just tell you, sometimes in my experience, I might have 11 clients on my caseload. But out of those 11, 6 of them may be high functioning, okay? But the other 5 or so, out of the other 5, I might have 2 that are completely reliant upon my assistance. And I mean, and when I say completely, I mean completely, to where there's one that always is asking me when is he going home, and another one who may be saying, hey, can you take me to go visit my mother? I'm having a visit today. And then I have to and I might have both these gentlemen at the same time while I'm taking them to a docket to escort them to the medical department. You can imagine how challenging that may be. And so there's just a small example of just some of the things that just happen and how they do when they give us a caseload. It's not, you won't have 11 people that are, you know, totally dependent upon some type of assistance and care. They have a unique way of the recreational therapist of, you know, spreading it around so that we can, and then we also do a good job of communicating amongst ourselves and giving each other a break and assistance we need.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. There's a question about, and I think you covered it a little bit, but how do you think we can prepare our health system to help prisoners once released who have dementia? And I think somebody mentioned that a little bit before. But
well, yeah, and that's what I was attempting to do earlier, is that we need to create some type of liaison, some type of, you know, place just like it was set up on the inside. Well, there can be places just like that. Like, in other words, just like we have homes out here now, we can have places that where people are secure, but it still seems relatively open, in which there are people like ourselves, Gold Coats, and we can even utilize people who are out on good behavior, or people who have sat in on these different types of seminars while incarcerated, and they've upgraded their education, and they've been working for something like dietetic services, and they want to try and move to the next level and be of greater assistance because they used to see those people in a hospital setting when they were incarcerated. We can create that same type of setting on the outside so that people go from one environment to another environment which serves the same purpose, with the same type of, can you understand something? With the same type of needs being fulfilled. And I think it's something that I think it'd be cost effective too.
Yes, and I think Barry really hit it spot on, and this is our next vision is, you know, people with dementia, Alzheimer's, and when they go to the board, a lot of times they're denied because they don't have a place to go. And the goal, our vision of the current Gold Coast after this book is possibly create a facility where, you know, nursing homes here really will not welcome a former felon, whereas we have former Gold Coats who have told me they would give anything to be caregivers. So if we can possibly establish a home or facility where they will care for those who are coming out, who don't have a place to go.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's going to be our last question, so we can wrap up here. And I know we have some more Q&A on the board, and if you can, I think on our last slide we maybe have some email addresses where you could send those and get more information. Leslie? Okay. Special thank you to the people who helped make this happen. And again, please, there we are. There's our contact info. And again, this slideshow will be sent out to all the people who were here. So if you didn't get your question answered, I'm sure Eileen, Barry, and Ron would be quite happy to answer your questions via email.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes, because I see you, Sixto Marrero, and I see your question.
So thank you so much. Any last words from Eileen, Barry, or Ron quickly, and then Leslie will wrap us up.
I just want to say thank you to NIC for giving us this opportunity, and please, everyone, don't forget, you know, the aging in prison. They're really a very vulnerable population. Sorry, Barry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking that I would just like to end with just a story with part of the forward of our book. I'd like to remind everybody that in the prison dining hall, an inmate reaches over and takes a piece of bread from another inmate's tray while another is angry that someone took his seat. On the yard, a female inmate reeks of urine and develops a rash because she forgot to walk to the bathroom and no one has bothered to change her clothes. When confronted by custody, she gets agitated because she doesn't want to change. Does this call for disciplinary write-up, segregation, or an assessment of the behavior? Chances are there isn't time for an assessment, but only swift, clean action to maintain security. And more than likely, unless it is known that the inmate may have dementia, a write-up or segregation might occur since someone needs to be accountable for disruption of routine. I would just like to remind everybody that not only is this example pertaining to inside, but we see oftentimes on the outside that we ask our security out here to be social workers, psychologists, and caregiver. And if we find a way to help everybody have some knowledge, that everybody benefits, and we're all more safe. And I just believe this Gold Code experience is just another way to achieve.
Thank you.
Ron, any last words?
Thanks. Just thank you all for joining in, and please visit prisonsofage.com to see any more images.
Thank you all, and thank you so much, our panel, for working with us and presenting this. And again, the slideshow will be sent out to all the participants, and as Leslie said, the recording will be available. And with that, I will turn this over to Leslie.
All right, thanks everyone. On behalf of NIC, we thank you for attending. We hope to see you in another webinar soon. And don't forget to register for the 2016 NIC Virtual Conference coming up on November the 9th, 2016. This concludes today's webinar. We hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.